Welcome to my prediction video between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Now, before I jump in here, I just want to ask you to give me a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm, obviously. And of course, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button. The water's great. All right, so I'm going to go by position here and who's got the edge, and then I'll, throw some stats at your face and then give you my pick towards the end. Let's begin. Starting in net with the Toronto Maple Leafs with Anthony Stolarz, who's going to be the starter. Now, he finished first in the league in save percentage with a 9.26 in 34 games. Now, he's got zero playoff game experience, but he sat on the bench with the Florida Panthers when they won the Cup last season, so that counts for something, I guess, like intangibles. He's a very confident guy, talks a lot on the ice. He's huge, obviously, doesn't give up a lot of rebounds. Basically, the only way to beat this guy is tip screens. Which you could probably say about a lot of goalies, but he makes all the saves that he needs to make. And then there's his backup, the future Leaf goaltender in Joseph Woll, who finished with a 909 in 42 games. He's got some playoff experience. In 7 games, he's got a 940 save percentage. He's been unbelievable. So I think you know where I'm going with this. But let's look at Ottawa and Linus Ullmark. Finished the season with a 910 in 44 games. The thing is, in the playoffs, in 10 games, he's sub 900. So I know he won the Vezina a couple of years ago, but he hasn't had much luck in the playoffs, and that's with some pretty good Boston teams /D and team defense playing in front of him. And then his backup, Anton Forsberg, was a 901 in 30 games with zero playoff experience. So I'm not saying Linus Ullmark won't be good, but I'm definitely giving the edge here to Toronto. Let's move on to defense. This is a tricky one, isn't it? Because if I were to look at the top defenseman, it's definitely Sanderson. You could even argue Chabot would be number 2 from both teams. For the most part, I want to say Ottawa has a slightly better top 4, especially with those 2 players I mentioned. It's the bottom pairing which is going to be taken advantage of, and I think Toronto has a better overall top 6. Toronto doesn't really have an offensive threat. Morgan Rielly is supposed to be that, but he's had a down year. He has been known to step it up in the playoffs, not really last year, but the year before. OEL has some offensive instincts as well, and then it kind of stops right there. But they've got a lot of great defensive defensemen. McCabe isn't too bad on the rare occasion on offense either. But Tanev and McCabe and Carlo and OEL's playing in their bottom pairing. So I think I'm going to call this, do I call it dead even? Am I going to chicken out on this? I think so. It's a hard one. What do you think? I'm calling it even. All right, let's move on to the forward units. Toronto's top 6, I'm going to definitely give them the edge. However, Ottawa's much more of a balanced offensive team. Ottawa's bottom 6 produced 89 goals this season. Toronto's, and I include actually 8 players in this, only scored 62. Now, this doesn't include McMahon, who scored 20, because although Domi might start with JT and Nylander, I could see McMahon moving into that spot predominantly as the playoffs move on, as more of a permanent solution. So even if you swap out McMahon with Domi, you're adding 12 goals. You still only have 74 compared to Ottawa's 89. You could also say that Lawrence and Pacioretty have a lot of playoff experience, Yankrock as well, and some of the other Leafs too, Kampf and Domi, Holmberg, Robertson, even Lawton. But you can also look at Ottawa's Amadio and Cousins and know those guys have played a ton of playoff games as well. So where do I go with this? Picking an advantage here for either team, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to chicken out again and call the forward bunch an even. Just because Ottawa's got more depth, but Toronto's got more upside in the top 6, who have been shut down in recent playoffs. So, maybe Ottawa? Anyway, let's talk about grease balls and who's got more of them on each club. Now, I think obvious one for Ottawa are Tkachuk, Cousins, Ridley, and even Perron and Cousins. To an extent. Toronto, you're looking at Domi, OEL, McCabe, Pacioretty, Lawton-ish, Nyes can play that way, Benoit, and even Carlo from time to time. He is a massive guy, not that mean, but he can cross-check you in front of the net. So you could say Toronto has more grease balls, but you could say Ottawa's got the best greaseball in Tkachuk and maybe even Cousins. Now I want to take a quick second look at the bottom 6 forward units of each of these clubs. Ottawa's is pretty set, right? With Pinto, Amadio, and Gregg on that third line. Gaudette, Cousins, Zetterlund on that fourth line. Their fourth line has 44 goals this season. Jesus. So that's pretty solid. But Toronto's is a little wishy-washy still. And it's been a hot debate, especially around the city. Right now on left wing lock, they've got Domi in the top 6 playing with JT and Nylander, by the way, which, again, I don't think that'll last too long. But in the bottom 6, on the third line, they've got Holmberg at center with McMahon and Robertson on the wings. On the fourth line is Lawton at center with Lorentz and Yankrok on the wings. But Camp is going to be in this lineup if he's healthy. I don't see him not being there. So the fourth line, I won't change too much. I actually want to keep Lawton at center with Lorentz on the wing because they had really good chemistry and Yankrok worked really well with them as well. And although Pacioretty will probably only be used sparingly, I'd like to see him on that fourth line in place of Yankrok with Lawton and Lorentz. He hits super hard. That line will be very annoying to play against, and they could probably score a goal here and there as well. Plus, Lawton is half decent at faceoffs. And they all hit a ton. Then, for the third line, which you could really say they've got 2 third lines, but the third line, I'd like to see Kampf centering that line with Domi and Robertson on the wings. Again, that means I kick McMahon back up beside JT and Nylander, but Camp on that third line with 2 offensive wingers who aren't the best at playing defense, although Robertson has been getting better, is kind of your safety net, right? And Camp can shove in the odd goal. Robertson is your sniper with a super hard shot, and Domi is your play distributor. I wouldn't be starting them in the defensive zone, but with Camp there, if they had to, it's not the end of the world. I'd feel better about it. Moving on. I'm going to throw some stats at your face right now, and then I'm going to give you my X factor and then my pick. Let's begin in the Atlantic, of course. Elite Leafs finished first, Ottawa 4th. NHL, the Leafs are 4th, Ottawa's 12th. The series win went to Ottawa, who won all 3 games. Goals for, Toronto was 9th, Ottawa's 18th. Tampa Bay is 1st, by the way. Goals against, Leafs are 8th, Ottawa is 13th. Winnipeg is 1st in that section. San Jose was last. Power play, Leafs are 9th, Ottawa is 11th. Winnipeg was 1st, Anaheim was last. Penalty kill, Leafs are 17th here. Ottawa's 19th. Carolina finished 1st. Detroit last. Penalty minutes, Leafs were 18th in the league. Ottawa 13th. Florida 1st, unsurprisingly. Vegas last, surprisingly. Face-off win percentage, Toronto is 2nd in this category. Ottawa 4th. Islanders finished 1st. Anaheim last. Double-digit goal players. Toronto's got 7 and Ottawa's got 10. But keep in mind, when it comes to players with 20 goals or more, Toronto has 6. Ottawa has 5. Not to mention that Josh Norris, who left for Buffalo with his 20 goals, and Dylan Cousins, who came from Buffalo with his 16, some of which he scored with the Senators. Amadio and Sanderson each had 10, by the way. Speaking of defensemen goals from each club. Toronto's got 21. Riley leads the way there with 7. Yikes. Ottawa, 32. Sanderson's got 11 of those, and Shabbat 9. Shots for, Toronto's 19th in the league. Ottawa is 8th, but it's just over a shot difference, really. Shots against, Toronto's 25th. Ottawa's 19th. Again, not much difference there. It's like just over a shot or something. Blocks. Toronto's 15th in the league. Ottawa's 13th. First was Philly, and last was Carolina, surprisingly. Hits. Toronto's 8th in this category. Ottawa's 4th. Florida finished 1st. Edmonton last. Giveaways in terms of, who gave away the least amount. Now Toronto sits at 18th. Ottawa finished 1st. Utah was last. Takeaways. Toronto's 22nd here. Ottawa's 16th. And now let's talk quickly about the goalies. Stolaroz finished with a 9.26, as I mentioned earlier, 1st in the league in save percentage. Has more or less 0 playoff experience, though. Joseph Woll finished with a 9.09 in 42 games, has 7 games of playoff experience with a 9.40 save percentage. Allmark finished with a 9.10 in 44 games, and he has an 8.81 save percentage in 10 playoff games. And then, of course, Forsberg finished with a 9.01 save percentage in 30 games and has 0 playoff experience. In the last 10 games of the season, Toronto finished pretty strong. They were 9-1-0 and went on a 5-game win streak. Ottawa, not too shabby either. They went 6-2-2, their last game being a win. Injuries, there's none for Ottawa. They're all seemingly healthy. Toronto, there's some question marks here. Is OEL going to play the first game or not? Pacioretty, I think he's ready to go, but he hasn't played in a while. Archambault, who knows? I think he's skating. Kampf is dealing with something. I thought he was going to be ready to play the first game. Maybe he's not there to the second, which is why left wing lock doesn't have him in the lineup. Let's talk about X factors for each club here. Starting with Toronto, my pick is Nyes. He can hit hard. He goes to the front of the net. He screens. He's tough. He fights the occasional time. He can be greasy. I look forward to seeing him stepping up in the playoffs. He's like 22 years old. He's really hit his stride this season. So Toronto's never had a player like that exactly. He's like Zach Hyman, but meaner and stronger. I don't know if he'll ever score as many goals as him, but he brings in a key element to that first line. Speaking of which, I'm going to digress here really quickly. I would love to see Domi play on the top line with Nyes and Matthews and bump Marner down with JT and Nylander down to the third line. They tried that once or twice this season, and they haven't used it much, so we probably won't see it. But that's what I like to see. In terms of X Factor, honorable mention for the Leafs could probably go to, I don't know, pick Marner, Matthews, Stolraz, number of players. McMahon, he's healthy as opposed to being injured from last season. The Senators, I gotta say it's Sanderson. When you can control the play with your puck management like he does, it's hard to pick anyone else. Although a close second has got to be Brady Tkachuk. And you could probably sparkle in a few other players like Pinto or Greg or et cetera, Shabbat. The biggest question mark for me for each club, for Toronto, I want to say it could be Austin Matthews' health. Is he going to turn it up in the playoffs? Mitch Marner, does he step up, especially late in the series where he usually deflates? Probably the biggest question mark for the Leafs might be their depth scoring and or their lack of offense from the defense. For Ottawa, it could be their penalty kill and it could be their depth on defense. That bottom pairing especially looks shaky. Now, for the moment of truth, who am I going to pick to win this series? I think you know already. Now, I want to just say, last season, I picked the Bruins over the Leafs in 7, and I was right. The season before that, I picked the Leafs over Tampa in 6, and I was right. So if it sounds like I'm gloating, I am. But the main point I'm trying to get to is, although I'm a big Leafs fan, I'm not a total homer, but I'm still not picking Ottawa. I'm going to pick the Leafs in 6 games. But I don't think it's out of question that Ottawa could win this either. I would think it would have to go to 7 games for that. But yeah, I'm sticking with Toronto in 6. For those of you who skipped to the end of the video, who am I going to pick to win this series? I think Ottawa in 5 games. Allmark is a beast, and Toronto's goaltending sucks. And that's about it, really. That's it, that's all. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button if you happen to be new to the channel. If you'd like to support me and the work I do here, you can do that through my crowdfunding page called Buy Me a Coffee. You'll see a link down below or just on my homepage. Hey, enjoy the playoffs. Are you excited? I'm excited. But most importantly, please remember to be excellent to each other.